Hey, I'm Russ Zacek with Leaders in Training, and I've got a friend of mine, Malachi Zirkle, with me today. I'm so excited to talk with him about his experience. He was one of my students in Leaders in Training when he was a young man, and now he's moved on into adult life and is pursuing missions. He's currently finishing up a 9-month program with Youth with a Mission, YWAM, with a business focus and using business in the mission field. And so excited to talk today, so excited to discuss his life and experiences as a preteen in Leaders in Training. So Malachi, thank you so much for being here today.
Of course.
I wanted to start out by just asking what's going on now. Like, tell me where you're at and what you're pursuing right now.
Absolutely. Like you said, with Business as Mission, I'm starting a business and looking to support missionaries overseas in their businesses. As a lot of times it's not their strength, but that is something that God has given me as a strength. So that is what I'm looking to do next.
All right, I'm going to ask a question that wasn't on my plan, but it's one that I've heard a lot. When did you first realize that you had some leadership in you?
I think the first time I realized would be when I went to a summer camp when I was in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And all the dots connected, because when a ministry FCA spelled out the Great Commission, they were like, this is what a Christian is. Christians are leaders. And not that it was the first time I ever realized it, but it's when all the dots connected. And it's like, okay, this is what a Christian is all about.
That's cool. That's great. When you were a preteen, when you were considering becoming part of our Leaders in Training program, which we called Special Forces, that was our name for that at the time, what was it that drew you? What was it that kind of called you forward that you wanted to join that team?
With Special Forces, LIT, helping people was something that I realized about myself at that age, 10 years old. You know, I was thinking, okay, how can I help people? I love serving, whether at that time it's only really at the house, I don't really have another place to serve. So it's like, I can actually help people besides just my parents. And it was an opportunity. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of times people overlook that kids want to participate and serve. And so you had that hunger inside you and you saw a way to connect it.
Absolutely.
That's cool. So what was maybe one spiritual discipline or habit that you developed in your time in LIT that you still keep with you today?
Reading my Bible. I remember at the dining room table when I was still in elementary school, I had the binders out and it had the devotions with all the different verses. And even though it was challenging and it felt even like homework at some times, and my parents helped and pushed me, over time they were able to step back more and more in that discipline of, okay, even though I don't feel like doing this, I know it's the right thing. And so now I do that, night and day, every day, where I get my Bible out, journal out, even if it's for 5-10 minutes. It's the discipline of, this is the right thing that's going to build my foundation for when I have a full day and a full night.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What is one experience that really stuck with you, like a turning point or a moment that was really special from your time in Leaders in Training?
Well, there was a special event one night in Leaders in Training, like in the gym, and I was given the opportunity to speak. I was 10 at the time, never spoken in front of a crowd. So first time public speaking. I had my favorite verse. I had just 5 minutes on it, and I got up there. I had an okay intro, and then I froze and just stood there like without any words. But in my mind, I was freaking out until the crowd was cheering me on. They were helping me, giving me advice. And so it wasn't about perfection. Instead, it was them giving me an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Any other stories from that time that kind of stand out, like happy memories or things that happened that you can remember?
Absolutely. I remember countless Sundays where I would be serving in the tech booth doing sound and slides, and I had like a rough week, but me being there and serving and showing up built my character. And I realized even if I am like a 10, 11, 12-year-old man, right, I realized, okay, this is a part of godly manhood, showing up, being servant-hearted, even when my emotions or I've had a bad week. God gave me the opportunity. So I saw it as a gift, and it developed gratitude and determination in me.
That's awesome. That's cool. You mentioned something about your devotion time, that your parents were, encouraging you, holding you accountable and whatnot. Did you see your connection as with discipleship? Let me say this. Did you see a connection form with discipleship with your parents as well, from the fact that they were, cheering you on and encouraging you and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. My parents let me choose. That's more of their style of, okay, we want you to choose God, but them communicating that was discipling me, and them saying, this is the right thing, this is what we want you to learn, here's a vehicle to learn that, and we want you to choose it, but it's your choice. So that's how it played out, and I ended up choosing that long term and never looking back.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know you're still very young, and you haven't necessarily figured out all the future paths and things like that. But I did want to ask, do you have kind of a statement that you've formulated that is kind of your mission statement, or the way you describe your purpose or your pursuit right now with God?
Yeah. So I believe that I'm here to encourage other people to have victory in spiritual warfare. And the way to do that in my life is to share that common ground. And we can have a relationship based on sports, business, worship, anything relationship. And then we can look into what are some ways that they're being defeated, what are some lies of the enemy, and speaking life over them so that they can live the fullest life, the abundant life that Jesus talks about.
That's awesome. That's so good. I can't wait to see all that God has. I know you're finishing up your school, your business school, and is there a next step that you know about, or are you praying about it, or like what's it look like out in the future, the next year probably?
Well, I'm definitely going to do some more missions, going to do some outreaches, going to do some more trainings, and with that, look at what needs are there in different areas and pray about, God, where do you want me to go? Because right now, this is me surrendering. That's what this season is all about. God, wherever you want me to go, I'm going to listen and obey and go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Something that's unique about you, just knowing you for a long time, is you have a very entrepreneurial spirit. I know you started a small business as a teenager in lawn care, and I was so impressed with your work ethic and your discipline and just your drive. So I know a lot of times people think in ministry training, or, like as churches, we dream of like, are you going to become a pastor or a missionary? That's like, those are the two appropriate choices or whatever. But I love that God has put it on your heart to use business as a vehicle to, so did you ever wrestle with that, or think like, oh, like I probably need to go, because you're a passionate Christian and you love the Great Commission, like it definitely could have felt like you should be a pastor, you should be a missionary. Like, how did that shake out in your thinking as you're dreaming about the future?
Yeah, I did struggle with that. But looking at the first, 30 years of Jesus' life, even, he was a carpenter. He had, the family business, and looking at some of those stories, like even Paul being a tent maker, and it's about a perspective change in that every Christian should be missional where they are.
That's awesome.
I think that's what really shifted to where I thought, okay, well, in school, for example, you have to be missional, but you're not a missionary. So really, every Christian is called to be missional wherever they are. I think that is what. So in business, how can I be missional? Well, I have 40 hours a week with my employees and customers and all these things, versus as a missionary, like that's not necessarily what God's called me to, and I wouldn't be as effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know as part of YWAM you went on some mission trips. Is there a story that sticks out from the mission trips where you just saw the power of God move, or maybe you had a challenge or whatever that you could share with us?
Sure. So there was one government facility in North Africa that we were invited to by the government, which was surprising because it's a closed nation.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a Muslim government inviting us to come into this rehabilitation facility. So all of these men were struggling with getting out of addictions from alcohol, drugs, and just other issues they had. And so we were invited to speak life into them. And I'm like, yeah, that's my thing.
That's awesome. Wow.
And so I got to preach on Luke 15, and God really spoke to their hearts about the grace and redemption of God. And the coolest part was when we got to pray for them, because people got saved.
Wow.
3 people got saved, and then another 3 people got healed of the lung diseases.
Wow.
So it was not
Praise
only
God.
showing God's miracle of healing, but also redemption, because the very sin that caused their lung disease, God said, I'm going to redeem that and heal it and give you a new life.
Wow.
Spiritually and physically.
Wow.
So that was amazing. Yeah.
That is so cool. Wow, what a story. I wish I could have seen that in action.
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing about walking with God, the best is yet to come. It's always the best is yet to come. There's so much more in your future and what God wants to use you to do. One other season of your life that I remember because I got to witness it was your time with FCA with high school. Can you just tell me a little bit about like how that got started up and what God did through that at your school?
Absolutely. So when I transitioned into middle school, I heard about FCA through my dad. He was a teacher.
What is FCA? Just so, and anyone watching might not know what that is.
Yeah, FCA is Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and to put it plainly, it's athletes that are reading the Bible together, and that's the biggest thing they do. They're very word focused, and they have devotions. They have Bibles that have the full Word of God, and then next to it they'll have sport-specific devotions. Cool. And so we'll have huddle times, which means we meet weekly, either after practice, at a game, in a classroom, whatever it is, and we'll study the Word together. But that transition from elementary school to middle school, FCA was a way that I could find my rock in God through that transition, because transitioning from the different schools is difficult, but I found community and especially the Word. Well,
what I also witnessed as a high schooler is you using your leadership gift, really taking a leadership role in your FCA and bringing a lot of energy and passion, and even that entrepreneurial bent of like looking for new ways to reach your school and things like that. So it was fun to watch. To watch you grow in that way.
There's that one revival day we had and you were there, like you saw there's over 100 students and staff, and we saw so many people encounter God. They were crying, they were hugging, and this is a public school. So that really shook up the school, and I think that was a catalyst. Now FCA has grown over double.
Wow, nice.
And the legacy continues. God is still moving through leaders, and the popular kids are now the ones going to FCA. Somebody told me this at the gym. They were like, cool. Dude, you know that FCA thing? Now all the popular kids are going. So there's like no bad kids. Like, the role model's good now.
That's amazing.
It's transformative.
Wow. To think that, a little step of obedience could have that much impact on a culture. Because public schools, they have a culture. There's a way that things go there. And to think that God made a difference through your leadership there is pretty awesome and powerful.
Yes, it's so rewarding.
Yeah. So this question is, if you were talking to a kid, maybe in 4th or 5th grade, and they were thinking about joining a Leaders in Training program, what would you say to them?
I would say the reason you should do it is to help people. That's why I did it, and that is so rewarding. The The first commandment is to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and then to love others in that same way, right? And so when you love God, then you're going to want to help others. And this is a perfect avenue to do that.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. This has been awesome. I am praying for you. You're on my... So in Leaders in Training, we have a prayer journal, and we write down all our friends and all the prayer needs and stuff. So you're in my prayer journal. I'm praying for you all the time. I'm so excited about your future.
Yeah.
So I'll be constantly partnering with you and keep in touch to see where God takes you. But I appreciate your time today and can't wait to see what God does next.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening. This is Russ Zacek with Leaders in Training. Check us out if you are interested in starting a Leaders in Training program at your church. I would love to help you in any way I can. God bless.